You wrote that you're a liberal on healthcare and you supported a Canadian-style system where the government acts as an insurer. Is that what you still believe in?
No, I looked at that. I looked at it very seriously. I do believe, and some people don't agree with me on this, I want everyone to have coverage. I do want people to have coverage. I think that a great form could be, and I love the free market. I love the way it works, but we never had a free market. Even before Obamacare, it wasn't really free market. As an example, we're in New York right now, and when I wanted to bid out my health insurance and all sorts of things, we had boundaries. I could only go in New York. If I wanted to bid it out to a company from California, New Jersey, anywhere, I mean, and I was getting like, you get no bids.
But the single payer, no more. You're not interested in that.
No. I mean, and you know, there are different times. And over the years, you're going to change your attitudes. You're going to learn things, and you're going to change. And I've evolved on that issue. I've evolved on numerous issues.
Let me ask you about China, because as you may or may not know, this is a Trump tie.
Yes.
I bought it for this interview.
Oh, not only that, I mean, I buy a lot of stuff because...
But as you know, they're made in China.
Very beautiful tie, by the way.
It's a lovely tie.
Yeah.
It's made in China.
Correct.
Is it hypocritical at all for you to talk about this?
Not at all.
While you're manufacturing your clothes?
No, I'm building the old post office, and I just made an order from China because they've cut their currency to such... I'm a private person. I may not be a private person for long. Who knows? We'll see what happens.
Right.
I talk about my ties in speeches. You know, I'm open. I say my ties many times are made in China. Not all of them, by the way, but a lot of them are made in China because they've manipulated their currency to such a point that it's impossible for our companies to compete.
When it comes to outsourcing jobs, which is what this tie would be a representative issue of, one of the issues is that the people in China, the laborers, are paid a lot less, and the standards are worse when it comes to the environment and health care and worker safety.
Many problems. I agree with it.
Isn't that what? But what do you say when somebody says, "Well, why don't you be a leader and make these in Philadelphia?" I'd be willing to pay more for this tie.
You would, and unfortunately, you would see that it's very, very hard to have anything in apparel made in this country. You know how much is made outside of the country?
Most of it,
and now,
but some of them.
Vietnam, so many other places. The problem...
American apparel
and just
makes
so you understand, I know you bring that up, but I put ties in my speeches.
It just seems interesting because you dinged Ford for manufacturing their cars in Mexico.
No, I don't ding them. I say, congratulations, I think it's a great deal, but I wouldn't let you do it. I wouldn't let them manipulate their currency because that's what they do.
Back in 2012, you tweeted, quote, "The concept of global warming was created by and for the Chinese in order to make U.S. manufacturing non-competitive."
Well, of course I'm being sarcastic, you know. I mean, I love to do
That's not to be taken seriously.
No, it's a little bit serious. There's a little bit of seriousness there. Look, we are restricting our factories much more than China. I go to China. They have factories that are much more competitive. I'm not saying friendly, but they're certainly not environmentally friendly. I'm a huge believer in clean air. I'm not a huge believer in the global warming phenomenon.
But the overwhelming majority of scientists say it's real and it's man-made and things are happening.
Oh, there could be some man-made too. I mean, I'm not saying there's zero, but not nearly to the extent. When Obama gets up and said it's the #1 problem of our country, and if it is, why is it that we have to do and clean up our factories now, and China doesn't have to do it for another 30 or 35 years in their wonderful agreement? You know, our wonderful negotiators. They have much smarter, much better negotiators than we do. It's really as simple as that. We don't have, and that's part of the reason I'm doing this, because
you're the man that wrote The Art of the Deal.
I did write The Art of the Deal, in all fairness. And a lot of people, the administration hasn't read it, obviously. But we have horrible trade deals.
So you would tear up NAFTA, tear up the...
I think NAFTA's been a disaster. I think our current deals are a disaster. And I'm a free trader. The problem with free trade is you need smart people representing you. We have the greatest negotiators in the world, but we don't use them. We use political hacks and diplomats. We use the wrong people. Mexico is smart. They've out-negotiated us to a fare thee well. They're going to be the capital of automobiles pretty soon, the way they're going. I respect what they're doing. I think it's great. I like Mexico. I love the Mexican people. I do business with the Mexican people. But you have people coming through the border that are from all over, and they're bad. They're really bad. I've spoken to border guards, and I said, how bad is it? They said, Mr. Trump, you have no idea how bad. You have people coming in, and I'm not just saying Mexicans. I'm talking about people that are from all over that are killers and rapists. And I mean, they're coming into this country.
Let me talk to you about that for 1 second. The government of Mexico called those comments prejudicial and absurd. And I think that what they're objecting to is the idea that of the 11 million undocumented workers, illegal immigrants, whatever you want to call them in this country, that you're painting them with a very broad brush, rapists, criminals, when that's probably a very small percentage.
Well, I don't think it's a small percentage, it's a lot, but it's not Mexicans necessarily. They're coming from all over.
You talked about building a wall and having Mexico pay for it.
Yeah.
How exactly are you going to get Mexico to pay for it?
Look, Mexico has not treated us well. Mexico treats us as though we are stupid people, which of course our leaders are. I don't blame Mexico. China's even worse.
But how do you force a country to build a wall?
You force them because we give Mexico a fortune. Mexico makes a fortune because of us. A wall is a tiny little peanut compared to the kind of money.
So you would cut off business or impose tariffs unless they built the wall?
I would do something very severe unless they contributed or gave us the money to build the wall. I'd build it. I'd build it very nicely. I'm very good at building things.
Can we talk about ISIS for 1 second?
Yes.
I think you said that you want to bomb the oil fields in Iraq
yes.
to take on ISIS?
The only way you're going to beat them is that. You know why they're rich? Because they have the oil. Now, if you remember...
They have the oil in Syria, though.
They have some oil in Iraq.
There's a refinery that they're fighting with the Iraqis over.
They're fighting, and they're going to get it, fighting with Iraq. They're going to get it. One of the Iraqis will throw up their arms, they'll leave, and, you know, they have, it's just one of those things.
But I don't think the government of Iraq would want us to bomb their oil fields.
The government of Iraq, there is no government in Iraq. The so-called government of Iraq went to Iran to meet with Iran. Iran is going to take over Iraq. That's as simple as that, okay? As simple as that.
I don't know that Iraq, the government of Iraq, or whatever you want to call them, would support our bombing the oil fields in Iraq.
Who cares?
Okay.
I don't care about the government of Iraq. They're corrupt. The government of Iraq is totally corrupt. Who cares?
Let me ask you about a few social issues, just because they haven't been issues you've been talking about for several years. I know you're opposed to abortion.
Right. I'm pro-choice.
You're pro-choice or pro-life?
I'm pro-life, I'm sorry.
Pro-life. So how important is that issue to you now when President Trump picks Supreme Court justices? Would that be a litmus test?
It is. Look, you have a lot of pro-choice people out there, but that is an issue. It's very interesting because in terms of polling, the pro-choice is actually going down a little bit. You know, it's very interesting.
Let's talk about same-sex marriage. You said a few years ago that you were evolving on that issue. Where are you?
I'm traditional marriage. It is changing rapidly.
But what do you say to a lesbian who's married or a gay man who's married who says, Donald Trump, what's traditional about being married 3 times?
Well, they have a very good point. But, you know, I've been a very hard-working person. I have a great marriage. I have a great wife now. And my 2 wives were very good. And I don't blame them. But I was working, maybe like you, 22 hours a day.
I'm not asking you to explain your divorces.
No, I know.
But
I'm just saying I blame myself because my business was so powerful for me. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
But what do you say to a lesbian or a gay man who are married and say...
I really don't say anything. I mean, I'm just, Jake, I'm for traditional marriage.